Emily Carter stood alone in the dim corridor of Horizon Innovations. 40th floor. Her phone pressed to her ear as she whispered, "I'm nobody here. I could disappear, and no one would notice." Her voice trembled, a fragile thread of despair woven into the sterile hum of the Chicago skyscrapers' air conditioning. She didn't know. Nathan Pierce, the CEO, lingered just around the corner, his breath catching at the raw ache in her words. A confession that pierced his guarded heart, setting in motion a chain of events that would soon intertwine their lives in ways neither could foresee. Emily was 29, a small-town girl from Wisconsin who had arrived in the city with a suitcase full of dreams to make a difference through her words and ideas, but now she felt like a shadow in the glass fortress of Horizon Innovations, a tech-driven marketing firm where ambition eclipsed empathy. A worn leather notebook, her sanctuary of unspoken brilliance. 20 minutes earlier, she'd sat in her car in the parking garage, the city's dawn light glinting off her engagement ring, the metal cold as Lucas's voice echoed in her mind. "I've been seeing someone else, Emily, I'm sorry." Those words had shattered her world, leaving her heart a mosaic of betrayal and self-doubt. She'd gripped the steering wheel, her knuckles white, wondering if she could summon the courage to walk into Horizon one more day, to face the monotony of fetching coffee and filing reports, while her mind brimmed with ideas that could redefine how businesses connected with people. She stepped into the elevator that morning, 5 colleagues buzzing about client pitches and quarterly goals, their voices flowing around her as if she were part of the sleek chrome walls. The security guard's nod was perfunctory, same as every morning for 3 years, had learned to make herself smaller each day, a brilliant mind buried beneath tasks that required no thought. Her notebook held more than just notes. It was a vault of marketing campaigns that could humanize Horizon's sterile pitches, letters that wove stories of trust and partnership, strategies that could transform cold transactions into lasting relationships. But who would care about the thoughts of someone who apologized for brushing past colleagues in crowded hallways? As she reached her desk, Michael from IT approached, his gentle smile a rare beacon in the sea of indifference. "Morning, Emily, you holding up okay?" His question carried a warmth that made her throat tighten. She managed a week. "I'm fine." Settling into her chair, the weight of her ring a constant reminder of Lucas's betrayal, she opened her notebook, a single line glowing in her careful handwriting. "What does it feel like to be heard, to know your words can change someone's heart?" Her words were a quiet act of defiance, a testament to the fire still burning beneath her self-doubt. She thought of the meeting later that morning where Olivier read the HR manager would glide in her designer heels sharp as her tongue, dismissing any voice that dared to rise above the corporate script. Emily had once dreamed of presenting her ideas, of sharing campaigns that spoke to the human side of business, but every attempt had been met with Olivia's patronizing smile or a quick change of subject. Her confidence had eroded like a shoreline under relentless waves. Yet in that moment alone in the corridor, she didn't know Nathan Pierce had been watching her for years from his 40th floor office, his folder marked EC filled with observations of her quiet kindness, her thoughtful questions in client meetings, her knack for noticing what others overlooked. He'd seen her pause to ask a nervous client about their day, her small gestures of care that went unnoticed by the company's power players. But she was about to discover that the right person had seen her all along, that her quiet strength was a beacon in a world of noise, and that her story of being truly seen was just beginning. She navigated the 15th floor. The open-plan office buzzed with the clatter of keyboards and the sharp laughter of colleagues who moved with the confidence of those who belonged. Emily's desk sat in a shadowed corner, a small island of order amid the chaos of reports and schedules. She'd come to Chicago 4 years ago, her heart alight with the hope of crafting messages that could bridge the gap between companies and their clients. The morning meeting loomed at 9 sharp, a ritual where power players like Olivia read the HR manager held court, her presence as commanding as her tailored blazer. Olivia's voice could cut through a room like a blade, dismissing ideas that didn't fit her vision of sleek corporate precision. Emily took her usual seat at the back, her notebook open, her pen poised, though she knew her words would likely stay trapped on the page. Today's agenda was a high-stakes client, Horizon Tech, a company teetering on the edge of leaving due to Horizon's sterile pitches. Olivia stood at the head of the table, her smile as polished as her heels. "We need a campaign that resonates, something that makes Horizon Tech feel valued, not just another account." The room nodded, a chorus of agreement, but Emily's heart quickened. She'd been studying Horizon Tech for months, noting their founder's passion for sustainable innovation, their frustration with generic marketing in her notebook were drafts of campaigns that spoke to their mission, not just their bottom line. Her hand twitched, tempted to raise itself, but the memory of past dismissals held it down. "What about a story-driven approach?" she said, her voice barely rising above the hum of the air-conditioning. Heads turned. Olivia's eyes narrowed, her smile tightening into something sharp. "I'm sorry, Emily, did you say something about storage?" The misdirection was deliberate, drawing snickers from the table. Emily felt heat climb her neck. "I meant storytelling, connecting with their values, their purpose." She pressed on her words, gaining a fragile strength, but Olivia waved a manicured hand. "That's sweet, Emily, but we need strategic ideas, not creative writing." The room moved on as if she'd never spoken. Later, in the break room, Emily sat alone, her sandwich untouched, her notebook open to a page. She'd written weeks ago, if businesses spoke like people with hopes and fears instead of numbers, maybe clients would feel seen. She'd crafted a pitch for Horizon Tech that wove their commitment to green technology into a narrative of legacy and trust, words that could make a client feel like a partner, not a transaction. She sighed, closing the book as Michael from IT slid into the seat across from her. "You okay, Em? You look like you're carrying the world," he asked, his voice soft with concern. She offered a half smile. "My fiancé's sleeping with someone else, and I'm invisible here, so not exactly thriving." Michael's eyes widened. "I'm so sorry, Em, no one should feel like that. You're not invisible to me." His kindness was a lifeline, but it couldn't erase the weight of her reality. She'd spent years pouring her heart into ideas that never saw daylight, her notebook a gallery of campaigns that could transform Horizon's cold outreach into something warm and human. She'd written letters that could mend strained client relationship, strategies that could shift the company's culture, but they remained locked in her private world where no one could dismiss them. Meanwhile, on the 40th floor, Nathan Pierce sat at his desk, the city sprawling below like a map of his own ambition. Since losing his wife 3 years ago, he'd buried himself in work, building walls around his grief, but Horizon's recent client losses had forced him to confront a truth. Business wasn't just about data, it was about connection. His assistant dropped a stack of feedback reports on his desk. "Horizon Tech says our pitches feel robotic, no human element." He nodded, dismissing her as his thoughts drifted to Emily Carter. He'd been watching her for years, noting her quiet presence in meetings, her ability to read clients' unspoken needs. In his drawer was a folder labeled EC, filled with observations, her thoughtful question to a nervous client about their daughter's art project, her habit of lingering to overhear clients' small talk, piecing together their stories. He'd seen her potential even as she doubted it herself. Emily's words from the corridor echoed in his mind, "I'm nobody here," and he wondered how someone so insightful could feel so unseen that afternoon. Emily lingered at her desk, the office emptying around her. She opened her laptop and began typing a draft campaign for Horizon Tech, not for Olivia or the meeting, but for herself. The words flowed like a river she'd been damming for years, a narrative that celebrated Horizon Tech's mission to innovate for a better planet. It was more than a pitch, it was a story of shared dreams of building something that mattered. She saved the document, her heart racing with the thrill of creation, but also with fear. Who would ever read the work of an assistant who faded into the background? As she packed up, Michael appeared, his eyes bright with curiosity. "Still here, Em, writing another masterpiece?" She hesitated, then nodded. "Just ideas, nothing official." He leaned closer. "Can I see?" Her instinct was to hide, but his encouragement felt like permission to exist. She showed him the screen, and his face lit up. "Em, this is incredible. It's what Horizon Tech's been begging for." She shook her head. "It's just a draft, Michael. It'll never see daylight." But his enthusiasm didn't waver. "My friend works at Horizon Tech. They're desperate for something real like this. Mind if I share it? No names, just as a sample." Her heart stuttered at the risk, but something in Michael's belief made her nod. "Okay, but please be careful." As she left the office that night, the city lights glittering below, Emily felt a spark of something unfamiliar, hope mingled with fear. She didn't know that her words were about to travel beyond her desk, or that Nathan Pierce was already imagining a role for her that could change everything for both of them. Nathan Pierce stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his 40th floor office, the Chicago skyline a glittering reminder of how far he'd climbed and how much he'd lost. His reflection stared back, a man in a tailored suit who'd built Horizon Innovations into a titan of tech-driven marketing, yet felt hollow inside 3 years ago. His wife's death in a sudden accident had carved a void he'd tried to fill with work, but the company's recent struggles were a mirror to his own failure. To connect, his desk was cluttered with reports, each one a testament to Horizon's faltering client relationships, their feedback sharp with words like impersonal and disconnected. Nathan's fingers brushed a thin folder labeled EC tucked beneath. A pile of contracts. It held years of notes about Emily Carter, the administrative assistant whose quiet presence had caught his attention, not for her title but for her instinct to see what others missed. He'd noticed her in client meetings asking small, thoughtful questions that revealed the human side of business. A client's worry about a looming deadline, a partner's pride in their company's community work. Emily listened in a way that made people feel understood, and Nathan had been watching, wondering if her gift could be the key to saving Horizon from its own cold efficiency. That morning, her whispered words in the corridor, "I'm nobody here, I could disappear, and no one would notice," had struck him like a physical blow. He knew that pain, the ache of feeling unseen since losing his wife, he'd hidden behind his title, letting meetings and metrics shield him from the vulnerability of connection. But Emily's voice had cracked that armor, reminding him of the company. He'd once dreamed of building one that valued people over profit. He pulled out the EC folder, flipping through pages of observations. Emily offering a nervous client a glass of water, her smile easing their tension. Emily noting a client's mention of their son's soccer game and asking about it later. Her ability to read the room when senior staff barreled through with jargon-heavy pitches. These weren't just acts of kindness, they were insights into what made clients stay or leave. Nathan had seen Horizon Tech's latest feedback, their frustration with Horizon's robotic proposals, and he couldn't shake the thought that Emily's unwritten ideas could bridge that gap. Meanwhile, on the 15th floor, Emily sat at her corner desk, her notebook open but untouched. Her confidence frayed by Lucas's betrayal. She stared at her engagement ring, its weight a reminder of a life unraveling. She'd tried to slip it off that morning, but her fingers had faltered, as if letting go would mean admitting she'd failed, not just in love, but in proving her worth. She flipped to a page in her notebook where she'd sketched a campaign for Horizon Tech, inspired by their founder's story, a former engineer who'd started the company to create sustainable tech after seeing his hometown polluted by industry. Her pitch wove that passion into a narrative of partnership, not just profit, but the thought of sharing it in another meeting made her stomach twist. Olivia's sharp smile would slice it apart before it could breathe, yet Emily couldn't stop writing, her pen moving across the page, as if the words themselves were her rebellion against being invisible. She drafted a letter to Horizon Tech, not an official proposal, but a vision of what their partnership could be, a story of shared dreams of building a future where innovation served people, not just markets. The words felt alive, pulsing with the heart she'd kept hidden for years. Back in Nathan's office, his assistant knocked, delivering another disappointing report. Horizon Tech's ready to walk. They want partners who get their mission, not just their money. Nathan nodded, his jaw tight. He thought of Emily's corridor confession and the folder on his desk. He'd been hesitant to act, wary of disrupting the corporate hierarchy, but the company was bleeding clients, and he was tired of feeling like a stranger in his own life. He opened the EC folder again, his eyes lingering on a note from 6 months ago. Emily, suggesting a client appreciation event, focused on personal stories, shot down by Olivia as too sentimental. That suggestion had stayed with Nathan, a reminder of what Horizon had lost in its race for growth. He made a decision, then one that felt both reckless and right. He'd talk to Emily, not as an assistant, but as someone who might hold the answers he'd been too afraid to seek. On the 15th floor, Emily was packing up her desk, the office nearly empty, the city lights outside casting long shadows across her papers. She felt the familiar pull to stay late, to write one more draft that no one would see. But tonight was different. A flicker of defiance stirred in her chest. She thought of Michael's encouragement, his belief that her Horizon Tech pitch was incredible. "You're not invisible to me," he'd said, and for a moment she'd felt seen. She closed her laptop, her fingers brushing the notebook where her dreams lived. She didn't know that Michael had already sent her draft to his friend at Horizon Tech, or that the response was waiting in his inbox, a spark of interest that could change everything. Nor did she know that Nathan was descending in the elevator, his mind set on finding her, on asking why someone with so much to offer felt like nobody. As Emily stepped toward the exit, her heels clicking softly, she felt the weight of her invisibility, but also a quiet strength growing beneath it. She was still the girl from Wisconsin who believed Words could change the world, and maybe, just maybe, she was ready to fight for that belief across the city. Two lonely souls were on the verge of crossing paths, both searching for meaning in a world that had taught them to hide. Nathan with his guarded heart and Emily with her unspoken dreams were about to discover that sometimes the quietest voices carry the loudest truths. The fluorescent lights of Horizon Innovation's 15th floor flickered as Emily Carter lingered at her desk, the office now a quiet shell of its daytime frenzy. Her laptop screen glowed with the draft. She'd poured her heart into a campaign for Horizon Tech that wasn't just a pitch, but a story of trust and shared purpose. She'd written it late last night, after another bruising meeting where Olivia Reed had sliced through her suggestion with a smile as cutting as glass. The words had flowed from a place deep within her, a place where her dreams of making a difference still burned, despite years of being overlooked. She imagined Horizon Tech's founder reading her campaign, feeling seen not as a revenue stream, but as a visionary, fighting for a greener world. Her fingers hovered over the save button, her heart racing with a mix of pride and fear. This was her best work. Yet a letter that spoke of partnership as a promise of standing side by side through challenges. But the thought of sharing it with Olivia or the morning meeting made her chest tighten. It would be dismissed before it could breathe, labeled too emotional, too soft for Horizon's sleek corporate machine. She closed her laptop, her reflection in the screen showing a woman who looked both fragile and fierce. She didn't know that Michael from IT had already taken a risk, one that could unravel her carefully guarded world. Yesterday, after seeing her draft, he'd sent it to his friend at Horizon Tech. No names, no company letterhead, just a sample of writing that captured their mission in a way no other firm had. His friend had replied that morning, his email brimming with excitement. "This is exactly what we've been looking for. Who wrote this?" Michael had hesitated, knowing the risk, but he'd seen the light in Emily's eyes when she talked about her ideas, and he couldn't let them stay buried. He'd promised her he'd be careful, but the pull to give her words a chance was too strong. Meanwhile, Emily stood to leave, her notebook tucked under her arm, its pages heavy with ideas she'd never dared to voice. She thought of Lucas, his betrayal still a raw wound, his words, "You're too quiet, Emily," you fade into the background, echoing. In her mind, she'd spent years trying to be enough for him, for Horizon, for everyone. But tonight, something shifted, a spark of defiance that refused to let her stay small. She was about to head for the elevator when Michael appeared, his face a mix of nerves and urgency. "I need to tell you something," he said, his voice low. "I sent your Horizon Tech draft to my friend there just as a sample, no names attached." Her breath caught a surge of panic mixing with a strange thrill. "You what?" she whispered, her eyes wide. "They loved it, They want a meeting with whoever wrote it." Her heart pounded, the idea of her words reaching someone, feeling seen, terrifying and exhilarating all at once. "But Michael, there's a problem," he continued, his expression darkening. "My friend asked around their office about the pitch, and word got back to Kith Olivia yesterday." Emily's stomach dropped. Olivia Reed, with her razor-sharp authority and disdain for anyone who stepped out of line. "She knows." Michael nodded. "She got a call from Horizon Tech asking about an anonymous submission. She figured out it was yours, said it was a breach of protocol." Emily's mind raced. She could already see Olivia's cold smile, the HR report that would brand her as insubordinate. She felt the walls of her invisibility closing in, but before she could speak, the elevator dinged and Nathan Pierce stepped out. "Emily, I need to speak with you." His voice was calm but carried a weight that made her freeze. Michael glanced between them, then stepped back. "I'll let you two talk," he murmured, disappearing down the hall. Nathan gestured toward a nearby conference room, his grey eyes intense but not unkind. "I heard about your draft," he said, as they sat. "The Horizon Tech campaign, the one that's got their team talking." Emily's hands trembled in her lap. "You know about that, sir. I didn't mean to cause trouble, it was just..." Michael held up a hand. "I'm not here to reprimand you. I want to see it, all of it, your ideas, your notes, everything you've been keeping in that notebook of yours." She stared at him, her heart a drumbeat of disbelief. "How do you know about my notebook?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. He leaned forward, his gaze steady. "I've been watching you, Emily, not in a way that should alarm you, but because I've seen what you do, how you listen, how you notice things others miss. I've seen you make clients feel valued in ways our senior staff don't. You have something. Horizon needs a way of seeing people as people, not just accounts." Emily felt a lump in her throat, years of silence, of swallowed ideas, of being dismissed rushing to the surface. She opened her notebook, her hands shaking as she slid it across the table. "These are just drafts," she said. "Rough ideas, campaigns, letters, ways to connect with clients like Horizon Tech." Nathan flipped through the pages, his expression unreadable, but his eyes alive with something like wonder. "There's a campaign here about Horizon Tech's sustainability mission," he said, reading a line aloud. "It's not just about building technology, it's about building a legacy for the planet. This is what they've been asking for." "Emily, why haven't you shared this before?" She looked down, her voice small. "Because no one ever asked. Because no one ever asked. Because every time I tried I was told it wasn't my place." Nathan closed the notebook, his voice firm. "Then, we've been failing you, and I'm done letting that happen. I'm creating a role, Director of Authentic Engagement. You'll oversee every piece of client communication. Make sure it has the heart your writing does." Emily's breath caught the world tilting beneath her. This was everything she'd dreamed of, and everything she'd feared. A chance to be seen, to matter, but also a spotlight. She'd spent years avoiding. "What about Olivia?" she asked, her voice steady despite the storm inside her. Nathan's jaw tightened. "Olivia will adapt, or she won't. What matters is that your voice is what this company needs." Emily felt tears prick her eyes, not of sadness, but of something new, a fragile hope that maybe she wasn't nobody after all. Emily Carter sat in the sleek conference room on the 40th floor of Horizon Innovations, her notebook open on the polished table, her heart a wild rhythm against her ribs, as Nathan Pierce leaned forward, his eyes scanning her pages of handwritten campaigns, each word a piece of her soul she'd kept hidden for years. The air felt charged with possibility, a stark contrast to the sterile meetings where her voice had been drowned out by Olivia Reed's sharp dismissals. Just yesterday she'd been the invisible assistant fetching coffee and filing reports, but now Nathan's voice carried a quiet intensity. "You've been sitting on ideas that could save our client relationships, Emily. Why didn't you push harder?" She swallowed the weight of his question, stirring memories of every time she'd tried to speak only to be silenced by Olivia's patronizing smile or the room's collective indifference. "I thought I wasn't enough," she admitted. "My ideas weren't sophisticated enough for Horizon." Nathan shook his head, his expression softening. "That's not true. You've been seeing what we've all missed, the human side of this business." He slid a contract across the table. "Director of Authentic Engagement. You'll rewrite how we talk to clients, make every letter, every campaign feel like it comes from someone who cares." Emily stared at the paper, the title and salary. Dizzying, triple her current pay, a role that would place her at the heart of Horizon's strategy. She felt a surge of disbelief. "I don't have a degree in marketing or management," she said, her voice trembling. "You can't possibly think I'm qualified." Nathan's gaze was steady. "I've built this company for 15 years. I can teach someone tactics. But what you have, the ability to see people, to write with heart, that's not taught, it's a gift." Emily's fingers brushed the contract, her mind flashing to Lucas, his cruel words about her fading into the background. He'd been wrong, but so had she, for believing her worth depended on his validation. She thought of the Horizon Tech campaign she'd written, the one Michael had sent without permission, now sparking interest from a client ready to walk away. She signed the contract, her hand steady for the first time in weeks. "I won't let you down," she said, and for the first time she believed it herself. Nathan smiled, a rare warmth breaking through his usual reserve. "I know you won't. Let's get to work." The next morning Emily walked into the office with a new weight in her step, her desk no longer tucked in a corner but moved to a central space where light poured through the windows. Colleagues glanced her way, some with curiosity, others with unease, as news of her new role spread. Emily took her place at the conference table, her notebook no longer a private refuge, but a blueprint for change. Nathan addressed the room. "Emily Carter is our new Director of Authentic Engagement. She'll be leading a complete overhaul of our client communications, starting with Horizon Tech." The team murmured, some nods, hesitant, others genuine. Emily felt every eye on her, but this time she didn't shrink. She opened her notebook and began, her voice clear. "We're losing clients because our pitches feel like transactions. Horizon Tech wants a partner who sees their mission, their story. I've drafted a campaign that does that. Let's talk about how we make it real." The room listened, her colleagues leaning in as she outlined a narrative that wove Horizon Tech's sustainability goals into a story of legacy and trust. For the first time, her words didn't vanish into silence, they landed, sparking questions and ideas outside of work. Emily was shedding old skin. She met with a lawyer that afternoon to file for divorce from Lucas. His calls had grown desperate pleading for reconciliation, but she saw them for what they were, attempts to reclaim control, not love. I deserve more, she told her lawyer, someone who sees me, not just the space I fill. The act of signing those papers felt like reclaiming a piece of herself, one she'd buried under years of trying to be enough. Back at Horizon, Emily spent late nights reworking client letters, her desk now a hub of activity, as colleagues stopped by with questions or suggestions. Her campaign for Horizon Tech was taking shape, a blend of data and heart that made the client's mission feel personal. She crafted a letter that spoke of their founder's journey from a polluted hometown to a company fighting for a greener future, words that didn't just sell but inspired. Nathan checked in often, his presence no longer distant but collaborative. He'd share a coffee and ask for her thoughts on client feedback, his own walls seeming to soften with each conversation. "You're changing how we do things here," he said. One evening, the office quiet around them, not just with clients but with us. "People are talking more, sharing ideas. It's because of you." Emily felt a warmth spread through her, a sense of belonging she'd never known. She thought of her notebook, its pages once a silent rebellion, now a living part of Horizon's future. She was no longer the girl who apologized for existing. She was a voice, a presence, a force. And yet a small part of her still wondered if this was real, if she could truly step into this new life without the weight of her past pulling her back. As she left the office that night, the city lights brighter than she remembered, she caught her reflection in the glass doors, no longer a ghost, but a woman stepping into her own power. She didn't know that Horizon Tech's response to her campaign was already waiting in Nathan's inbox, a request for a meeting to discuss a partnership built on her words. Nor did she know that Nathan was beginning to see her not just as an employee, but as someone who understood the loneliness of hiding behind success. Emily Carter was no longer invisible, and the world was about to feel the full force of her quiet strength. Emily Carter stood at the head of the Horizon Innovations conference room, her heart steady as she faced the Horizon Tech executives, their eyes bright with anticipation. 2 months had passed since her promotion to Director of Authentic Engagement, and the campaign she'd crafted for them now filled the screen, a story of their founders' fight for sustainable innovation woven into a vision of partnership that felt like a shared dream. She spoke with a clarity she'd never known, her words painting a future where their companies didn't just collaborate but built something lasting. Mr. Thompson, Horizon Tech's CEO, leaned forward, his voice warm. "This is the first time a marketing firm has truly seen us. My father would have loved this." Emily smiled, her chest blooming with pride. "Your father's legacy inspired every word. It's about more than profit. It's about what we leave behind." The room erupted in applause. The contract signed before the meeting ended, a $3 million partnership secured because Emily had dared to write with heart. Afterward, Nathan Pierce lingered in the corner, his expression a quiet mix of pride and something softer. "You did it, Emily. You didn't just save a client. You changed how we're seen." She nodded, still dazed by the reality of her new life. The office had transformed to meetings now, hummed with open ideas. Colleagues shared stories over coffee, and her desk, once a hidden corner, now sat where people gathered, drawn to her warmth. Later that evening, Nathan found her in the break room, 2 cups of coffee in hand, the city lights sparkling outside. "I owe you a thank you," he said, handing her a cup, "for reminding me why I started this company. Connection, not just success." Emily sipped her coffee, noticing the vulnerability in his eyes. "I've been hiding too," she admitted. "After Lucas, I thought I didn't deserve to be seen, but writing for Horizon Tech, for myself, it's shown me I'm worth it." Nathan's gaze softened. "I've been hiding since my wife died, thinking work could fill the emptiness, but you've shown me it's about people, not just goals." He paused, his voice tentative. "Would you have dinner with me?" Emily, not as colleagues, but as 2 people finding their way back to the light. Her heart leaped, a quiet joy sparking at the thought of being seen, not for her title but for her eyed. "Like that," she said, her smile genuine as they stood together, the city alive below. Emily realized her journey wasn't about becoming someone new, but about embracing who she'd always been, a woman whose quiet strength could light up a room. Transformation was a testament to the power of being truly seen, and the courage to see others with the same clarity.